Everybody, welcome back to Miles and Mentors. We have a great one lined up today with Will Hopkins from Black Box Logistics. We're going to learn all about what brought him to the industry, what he's lived and learned along the way, and pass that information on to you. So stick with us. We have a great episode lined up for you right after this on Miles and Mentors.
Welcome to Miles and Mentors, the podcast that humanizes trucking, getting real life advice and insights from logistics professionals from all over the industry. We sit down with those seasoned mentors who have put in the miles with a mission to pass on the knowledge gained from years in the industry to you. Now buckle up and enjoy the show.
Hey, Will, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, doing great. I appreciate you coming on the show today. I can't wait to kind of pick your brain on your industry knowledge a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
For sure. So just for those that may not know you, quick high level, who you are and what are you doing in the industry today?
Yeah, so I'm Will Hopkins. I'm one of the founders of Black Box Logistics. We're a third-party freight brokerage based out of Birmingham, Alabama. We've been in business about 4.5 years, and we're up to 45 people.
That's fantastic, man. So, to kind of dive into that, let's go back to the very beginning. What is it that brought you to if I can talk today, the logistics industry in the very first place?
Man, I kind of stumbled into it. I had a friend who owned a freight brokerage in Birmingham where I live. And I had some other friends that worked there. And man, to be honest, I was quite ignorant to the concept. I thought that it was finance. I heard brokerage. I wasn't really sure what they were doing. And I was kind of just working some odd jobs at the time, didn't have a lot of traction or knew what I wanted to do with my life. And he told me to come by. I did. And I thought it was just to hang out, but I guess it was an informal interview. And at that point, they kind of described what they were doing. And he said that he'd give me a chance. So from there, I went to go be a broker, cradle to grave for a Roadrunner agency. And after being there for about a year, I left, had some contracts. So I started a dispatching company, did that for a year. And then when the contracts were up, we ran with Black Box and what we are today.
That's fantastic, man. And that's a quick path from getting into the industry to now today, you're the founder of a company running big. That's awesome. Thinking back, getting into the industry, what do you wish you would have known that you know now that would have made your life easier when you were starting out?
Man, that's tough, right? I mean, like everything, if I had known what I know now from day one, but ultimately I think it's the experience that's the cool thing, like the beautiful thing about learning and growing as a human and professionally is just kind of learning it for yourself. So I was very blessed to have some good people around me that had some more experience than me. So I was able to pick their brain and learn quickly. And we've accomplished a lot in a short time, but that's mostly due to just people willing to lend a helping hand.
Yeah, definitely. Now, obviously freight and logistics is one of those awesome things that is both very fast paced, but not so fast paced at the same time. Kind of looking at that and looking at some challenges that you've faced over your career, what would you go back, obviously as we're touching in on that, what we wish we would have known, what would you have gone back and did differently in your path?
Yeah, man. So something that, and I'm still working on it today, but when I was first starting out, it seemed like every issue or problem was such a big deal, man. And I'm one of those people early on if and when something went wrong, I kind of let it affect everything else I did for the day. In logistics, right? I mean, things happen. It's inevitable. If something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So it's kind of transferring to that belief and just action of, okay, it happened. Now, can I be solution based and work towards, progress rather than, like kind of getting in my head or getting frustrated. So just keep on moving forward, working on that resiliency and that mindset.
That's fantastic. So working in the roles that you've come across a lot of drivers, had to have a lot of conversations. What are some of the most impactful insights that you've had from working with drivers?
Yeah. So, I think that the biggest insight I gained was, so I mentioned that we started a dispatching company. So my first year I was just brokering and man, it was hard to really see it from the driver's perspective until I was on the driver's side, right? Because at that point, I'm being contracted out by these owner operators, a small fleet. So
sure.
I'm able to see it from a different perspective, actually put myself in their shoes. And before it was, I don't know, man, it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I understand. Like when I was first starting out, it's like, okay, if there's a layover, like that's unfortunate, like that sucks. But now like being on the driver's side, you can see like how big of a deal that is as their business. So I think that exposure and experience has helped us as we build Black Box to just keep in mind to, conduct business fairly. And and try to do the right thing. And usually, I don't know, we kind of believe in karma, right? So like if we do right, hopefully, we'll get right back. So
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm noticing the logo on your shirt, and we're going to touch in on this, but I want to go ahead and touch in on it now because, especially since COVID. Now, I'm sure there was some before. That's really when I got looped into, the power of social media around the logistics and trucking industry. But tell us a little bit about your podcast and kind of how that came about.
Yeah, so it's called Two Dogs, One Pod. And how it came about, man, I guess I got active on LinkedIn about 18 months ago. And really the reason I did it, I'm very passionate about our industry and I like to talk about it, right? And, like my normal life, I can only talk about logistics so much. I talk about the office and I go home and talk about it. It's like, it's a lot for them. They can't follow or they don't really want to have those conversations. So it's like, where do I find my people that are, as interested in this as me, where I can have these conversations. So I got on LinkedIn, started posting just kind of like my thoughts, interacting with stuff. Did that for like 6 months or so. Met a guy named Matt Dahl, and he called me one day, asked me to do a podcast. At first, I was pretty hesitant, have a lot going on here, pretty busy as is. So I was on the fence. And after a few days, I was like, why not? Let's do it. And then we've been doing it for about, I guess it's been about 6 months now. We do an episode a week, bring on a guest, somebody in the industry, and it's kind of interview style, but at the same time, it's more of just a casual conversation. And I've really enjoyed it. It's been great.
Yeah, you guys have really killed it, just to be honest. I've been a big fan, keeping up with you guys. I've done some other podcasting stuff, and it's really never occurred to me to hit this space until seeing, you guys and others. So appreciate what you do and, all that knowledge you pour into the industry from it.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
So kind of touching back, again, I'm sure they existed beforehand. COVID's where really it kind of came into scope for me. But for the first time, I started to see podcasts and different social media influencers from the logistics and trucking industry as a whole really hit this space. And I thought it was awesome because it gives you like an insight that you typically don't get before, especially for those that aren't in the space, just, regular public kind of having that special insight. What do you feel has brought positive, negative, whatever? What do you feel that has brought to the industry with so much more digital aspect being brought into it?
I think it's great. And I think that really, if you consider like algorithms or your feed, I think that who you interact with and what you're viewing and what you're posting will determine what you're viewing. So it's, if you're negative, it's almost, you need to form your own opinion, right? And consider a lot of things, not just if you read something that it's true, like the market's been really bad, right? But it's super easy to log into, say, social media and see everybody talking about it. And then you go into my office, talk about, the market's bad. So we don't want that kind of stuff to affect us. We still want to remain aggressive and positive outlook. So it's a good way to learn things, but at the same time, it's, I don't know, like, man, the past 2 to 3 years, it's been a bloodbath, right? So every time I log into LinkedIn, another company went under. So it's great because you can learn a lot depending on who you interact with, who you follow, and meeting people, man. Like ultimately, that's been the biggest thing for me and us as a company. I say I started posting my thoughts or whatnot, but really it's track our journey, talk about Black Box. And through that, we've been able to form some really strong partnerships with vendors and people around the industry that otherwise we wouldn't have met or known. And man, going back to, I talk about people lending a helping hand, leveraging their experience and knowledge. And man, if you're good to people, they'll be good back to you for the most part. And if I don't know something, I know somebody that does. I know where to go find it. So it's been a great resource for us if it's used the right way. Again,
for sure.
Yeah.
No, I think that's fantastic insight. And I love that that phrase you put out there. If you're good to people, they'll be good back to you. I think that's a great way to, great line to live by for sure. So kind of on that thought process with building those connections through social media, through LinkedIn, et cetera, and kind of ties into the aspect of mentorship, but just, kind of growing that base. How impactful do you believe that is for somebody getting in the industry today with, a site in their path that they want to eventually open their own business and make this a career? How impactful is that to really get out there and network at any stage?
Man, I think that it's huge. I think that it's been a big catalyst for growth with us. And then, man, even from like a personal standpoint, I've got 2 to 3 guys that have done what I'm trying to do, and they've been kind enough to be a sounding board for me. So, if you think about, okay, if I make a mistake, if I can learn from it, that's good. But if I can learn from somebody else's mistake that's doing what I'm doing now and save myself that trouble, I mean, that's that's huge, right? So yeah, I think that, and also at the same time, you got to find people at different levels, right? Because I've got, like a couple guys that are way beyond, but then I need somebody a little bit closer that kind of like is in it right now. So yeah, I think having good people around you is invaluable, and it's, man, you need them, or I need them. It takes a village.
I fully agree with you there. So leaning into that a little bit with the mentor aspect, I mean, you've kind of had an amazing career from the point you got into this industry to now being the founder of a company. How has mentorship impacted your journey, and is it still a relevant part of your path today?
Yeah. So I mean, are you talking about in the aspect of people mentoring me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I've got one guy that I meet with once every 2 weeks who's a business coach, who I consider a mentor. And yeah, he kind of like looks over my shoulder, like what we're doing, how we're doing it. And again, he's done what I'm trying to accomplish. So he's able to look at it and kind of help me shortcut some things. If I've got blind spots, right? I might be doing something and I think it's great. And then he's able to kind of lend me his perspective and allow me to see it a different way. And it's been huge. And then I've got just mentors outside of business, people I look up to as human beings that I want to be more like. So yeah, I mean, I think that if you're pursuing it as an entrepreneur, I think that it's kind of like a self-growth journey. Like it pushes you in so many ways. You get pulled different ways. Being a startup, small business, you come in, you don't know what you're gonna have to do or who you're gonna need to be, right? So it's kind of like a cheat code for like personal growth if you want to succeed, because you've got to like figure things out, you got to adapt, you got to evolve. And yeah, I mean, there's been so many times where I don't know like what to do or where to go, and I've been able to call somebody and they help me, talk me through it. And sometimes nobody has a perfect answer, but just like getting that out and somebody be like, hey, it's gonna be all right, it'll buff, you'll figure it out. It can go a long way.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic advice. And I love the aspect that, still at this point, you've got a coach that you meet with on a regular basis that's able to, contrast and compare what you're doing, where you want to go, and make sure that path stays on track, because it's so easy to get in our own mind and our own sights and feel like you're on path, but kind of lose track. And to have somebody with that expertise able to kind of hone you back in and have that high level view, I think there's so much value to that.
Yeah, man, I've got, if I'm down, I have people that will pull me up. And if I'm a little bit too up, getting a big head, they'll bring me down. And that's ultimately, I mean, that's what I need. I need people around me that will keep me in between the lines, level headed and moving forward.
Yeah. Now, I kind of think the really cool part of what you do, especially getting into the podcast and the social media aspect, is by taking in all that mentorship and, growth. Now you have the opportunity to put it back out there. And a lot of times doing that in a social space, you don't always see that one-to-one, but have you had any instances where you've been able to talk to somebody where you've impacted them by what you've put out there?
Yeah, man, it always makes my day. I'll get messages on LinkedIn, or somebody will message like, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything, just want to like let you know I've been keeping up with your page or whatever, and like really appreciate this or that. And yeah, it always makes my day. Because yeah, man, there's a lot of people, I'll get messages just like, hey, like, can we talk about this? And man, like I want to help everybody. At the same time, I have a business to run, and also
Sure.
make time for me so I don't burn out, so like I can't get to everybody, and that's the podcast and my page is a good platform for that. So it's always nice to get those messages, because it's one of those things that kind of struggle with. It's like, am I giving back enough? So then like when people do message me, it's okay, I'm doing my part for the industry.
100%. Now, to kind of hone in on those that are getting into this industry and have that, that path ahead of them, that they hopefully one day will make this into a career, their own company, et cetera. What are some of the biggest pain points that you see the industry facing right now? And what is your advice as to how to kind of tackle that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of directions I could go with this.
Sure.
But from a macro level, just there's always going to be hurdles, whether market's up or down or whatever's going on. I think that it's just about constantly looking to improve. So if I can come in each and every day and improve just a little bit over a long time frame, I'm going to be so much better than I was. And if you go in and attack every day like that, I think that you will find success, because I think that there's a lot of people that don't do that. I think that, again, over a long time frame, that'll separate you from the pack, so to speak.
Yep. So with your experience today, everything you know up to this point, if we gave you a magic wand and you're able to just kind of fix two things in the industry any which way you particularly wanted it, what would you fix about the industry today?
Man, see, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, if you fix something, but then it's like that's kind of like what makes the industry, right? And it's kind of what the need for somebody like me or my company as a broker, as a liaison, to kind of, make some of those things easier. But I mean, just like some, I don't want to say basic, but man, for the drivers, truck parking, that's an issue.
Yeah.
And then, maybe just some of their insurance, it's crazy. It's going up and up and up, and they can't control the rates. And it's just, but that's the market, right? It's supply and demand. It's capitalism. That's like what drives us. So I don't know if I want to fix it, right? Because that's what makes it, but it is a brutal and cyclical industry. And sometimes it can be hard. It's rough to like watch people you care about go out of business.
For sure. And just to kind of give you props here, we gave you free range with a magic wand to fix anything in the industry that could have just, really landed in making your life easier. But the two things you threw out there were to make the drivers' lives easier, which are kind of the core of everything we do in this industry. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, man. I mean, again, we exist to solve problems. So I like the problems that we have because it gives us something to work on and towards. And honestly, if everything was just like perfect and great, like I wouldn't be interested or driven. And it's kind of like the beauty of building a business is kind of like the processes and the journey, right? It's not about the end product or X number. It's about, the improvement and processes. That's what gets me excited.
100%. So we talked a little bit about, kind of the market over the years, the changes in the industry, with some of those key trends and reshaping logistics today. How has Black Box adapted to these changes, and what's your approach to staying agile in such a dynamic industry?
Yeah, so thankfully we're purely third party, right? So we're I don't want to say it, but we're very, very flexible in comparison to an asset-based brokerage or a trucking company, right? So if and when rates go down, I mean, we essentially maintain the same margin percentage. It's just a smaller cut, right, when the number's lower. But one thing we do is we are primarily small to medium-sized business, spot market. We don't do a lot of contracted freight. So, man, we've been able to add load share like through the downturn, and we continue to do so. So we're kind of fragmented in the sense that we're not like a big contract player. We got a lot of, I don't want to say mom and pops, but small to medium-sized companies, a couple of enterprises. I'm a split. I don't want to say split model. Half of my company is team systems. So, they've got the whole dispatch, carrier, sales, broker, track and trace, after hours, weekends for volume accounts. And then everybody else is cradle to grave. So we've got kind of the whole spectrum of potential customers, right? We can work enterprise, we can work small to medium size, and it's spot. So we ride the ups and downs. We're not stuck holding the bag, so to speak.
Right. So being in a position where you've been able to kind of have insight and conversation with so many drivers and industry professionals over the years, kind of looking towards those new entrants into the industry that want to, grow a business, make this a career, like we said, what's some advice that you would offer them in kind of pitfalls to avoid and ways to set themselves up for success from the beginning?
Yeah. So do you mean would it be a brokerage or a trucking company, or it's like which direction you want me to go with it?
Man, if we can do high level, let's do both, because I think those would both be fantastic insights.
Yeah. So, man, I don't think there's a tougher time to start a trucking company, not only because the market's so down right now, but also with the increase in fraud, right? Like I was talking to a good friend of mine yesterday, and they own a brokerage, very successful brokerage, but they went out and bought 10 flatbeds and threw in the market under a new MC, and nobody will book with them because everybody's got authority time requirements of you need to be in business 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. And we experienced that when we were dispatching with these owner operators, small fleets. They're all new authority. That's how we got our drivers. But so that's tough. So if you're going to start a trucking company, I think that you need to have loads first. I think that you would need to have a shipper that's going to work with you direct, or maybe a broker that'll keep you moving. Because if and when you go buy a very expensive truck, take out a loan, do all this, get the business up and running, you think that you're just going to kill it, it's going to be really tough. Like the first year is going to be tough. So I think that you need to have a solid business plan and, something that's going to keep your truck moving. Because if you get it and you get a truck stop login, nobody's going to book you. It's going to be very frustrating. So from the trucking side, but I don't know anything about running trucks. So I don't, it's not my wheelhouse. That's just my perspective on it from talking to other people. With the brokerage, I think that the easiest path, the path of least resistance, is to scale an agency model. So you can come in and leverage a parent company. You can broker under their MC. They're going to pay you early. You don't have to worry about the back office. the overhead, any of that. You can be purely a sales office. And if and when you want to go under your own MC, you can get that set up and then slowly shift it. But the agency model is the easiest way to get started on the brokerage end. I wouldn't do that unless you have brokerage experience and have been around the industry. Going into it blind, it probably won't work out great.
So for those kind of getting into that carrier space and wanting to scale their business, get additional trucks, additional drivers, et cetera. And again, I know you say you don't know about the running trucks, but you've had all this experience, talking with these guys, working with different businesses. So I do think you have some valuable insight. What is some impactful advice that you have seen for someone new like that to scale their business appropriately?
For the asset side?
Yeah, for like a carrier trying to take on more trucks, scale their business.
Yeah. So again, I don't have too much experience here, but I think it's all relevant with any endeavor that you go on, is to find people with experience that are willing to lend a helping hand and then kind of leverage that experience. Because those are questions I don't have the answers for. We don't want to run trucks, and I don't ever want to run trucks. That's one thing everybody I talk to that runs trucks talks about, how big of a headache it is and all these issues. And we've got some people involved with the brokerage now. They came from the asset side, and they're like, they tell us all the time, never buy trucks. Don't do it. It's not worth it. But thank God, but you got to have them. You need them. I don't have any interest in doing it. And I don't know anything about actually running a truck. I've dispatched trucks, and actually owning a truck, don't know anything about it.
So from the time that you guys have launched Black Box Logistics, what are some of the biggest things you've learned from that point in the industry?
Yeah. So for us, a big thing for me, a big hurdle was the concept of processes, SOPs, right? So
Sure.
If and when, for the most part, at least the way I see it, this isn't always the case, but if you go into business for yourself as a broker, you're likely a good operator, right? So I decided to do it with my two partners because I was very good at brokering freight, cradle to grave. I could do that very well. But at a certain point, you have to transition from working in the business to working on the business. So it's new skills and new things. When I thought about owning and running a company, I thought about all the fun stuff, like the sales, the ops and all that stuff, but a lot more comes with it. It's a lot of responsibility. And if and when you start hiring people, I don't want to say you take on their problems, but at the same time, you're responsible for them. It's not just you at that point. And you have to evolve and adapt. And man, there's things that I'm working on now, and I'll probably always be working on, just trying to keep up. And I kind of went on a tangent, but ultimately the SOP. So writing down processes, being structured from day one, so you're not having to go back and redo everything. That was a big thing for us.
So with that in mind, we talked a little bit about, what the industry is facing right now with fraud and different aspects like that. Where do you see the industry being in, say, 5 to 10 years? And what do you see coming impact wise?
Yeah, so it's tough to say what the market will look like in 5 to 10 years. I hope it's much better than it is now. I think it will. I think that we'll see a lot more automation and tech involved. So freight's kind of like slow to adopt tech, but you're seeing a really big push as of late. It's kind of a buzzword. I don't know about AI use cases per se, but automation, we've started leveraging some of that. It's really cool stuff, and it's not the idea of replacing people, but rather replacing tasks that these people shouldn't be doing, so they can be freed up to do revenue generating tasks. And that's a really cool thing, man. So we're, again, Birmingham, Alabama, Southern brokerage, pretty young. We're very people centric. Didn't know anything about tech, and then through LinkedIn, I met this one guy that's CEO of an automation company, and I was talking to him, and we started leveraging some of it. And it's crazy, some of the capabilities, and I think that's only going to improve, right? It's just I think that there's kind of a fine line between some of the stuff you see smoke and mirrors, and then there actually is use case that can help you a lot as a brokerage.
Definitely. So that's interesting to talk kind of about, what might be coming, the skills that are necessary within that. I was having a conversation unrelated to logistics, but I was having a conversation not too long ago with a friend of mine that works for the FBI. And he was saying that, years back, you could have a criminal justice degree, police background, and you'd be a perfect fit for FBI. Today, that just kind of makes you off the table. They want, cyber crime experience, computer experience, programming experience, all that. With all that coming to the logistics and trucking industry, what kind of experience do you think someone planning to get into this industry needs to look at having in the future versus what the norm has been?
Yeah, man. So I think that you can learn anything that you need to learn in this industry. I don't think that you necessarily like need previous experience. I'm a great example. I came in as an 18-year-old kid. I'd worked on farms and moving companies. I knew nothing. And I had people that taught me, and I still, in the grand scheme of things, I do know little to nothing, right? There's so much more for me to learn. But so we'll condense it down to, so like freight tech. I've seen a lot of tech people try to get into freight with no freight experience or knowledge of how and why things work the way they do. And then ultimately those companies don't do great because, man, you can build out all this cool tech, but if you can't convey the value prop or why it makes sense for me to use it or for it to actually make sense, you're probably not going to be successful. So with anything, I think that a great skill for any software or SaaS sales is the ability to kind of integrate like nerd talk and then just like sales talk and make it sound normal to where normal people can understand, to where it's not, you're not throwing around all these big words talking code or whatever, but you're able to convey that value prop and why it makes sense. So for freight tech, I think that's a huge thing. If you can make the high level tech stuff make sense to normal, like not normal, but like just freight brokers like me, and it makes sense, then you'll probably be successful.
Yeah, I think you hit on some really great points there. You know, early on, you're talking about not knowing anything, which, yeah, we all feel that way. But dude, watching you, you're an expert. You're killing it. So you do. But I think the really interesting thing about today, and especially like with what you guys do with the podcast and so many other sources, podcast, TikToks, all that jazz, is the ability for micro learning. Like it's impressive how much you can pick up just by watching a few videos and having a few conversations versus, trying to go through the textbooks, et cetera.
Yeah, man, anything that we want to know is really at our fingertips. It's just about seeking it out. The internet's a crazy thing, but like anything that you don't know and you want to find out about, you can go learn. You don't have to go, I'm not saying like classes or school is bad, but you can go learn any concept or about anything that you want at your fingertips, assuming you have internet connection.
Now, with your experience being a founder of a company, being successful, growing this thing in the industry, what is your insight into burnout in the industry and how to avoid it?
Yeah, man, it's something I struggle with. I'm a pretty all or nothing type person. So
Sure.
I will be all in, especially being a founder. Sometimes it's very consuming. It can take a lot. I think that surrounding yourself with good support, people that care about you, is very important. Burnout is real, man. I've experienced burnout. When you give everything to something at a certain point, you give. So I think that taking breaks, even if you don't want to, man, taking a day off, and disconnecting, getting out in nature, away from the computers and screens. Sometimes screens start talking to you if you're looking at them too long. Yeah. I think having good people around you that can kind of keep you centered and grounded, and people to talk to, man. So yeah, ultimately, good circle.
Yeah, dead on. It's one of those things that you get real pissed off working on something. It always helps to walk away and come back to it. But, same way, I get so tied up into stuff. May not be bad, just, so tied up into it. But it's interesting that when you do kind of force yourself to take that small break away, you come back, you kind of see stuff with a different clarity that you didn't always know you needed, but that definitely impactful.
Or even like, man, having some hobby, something that will take you out of whatever you're doing, something that can help you disconnect, to recenter, to realign.
100%. So looking forward with Black Box Logistics, what is coming in the future? What's your guys' plans?
Well, man, we just moved into a new office, 16,000 square feet, onboarded 6 last week, and we're looking to fill it out. So we'll be, really we're looking at a growth period for the next year or 2 years. We really want to kind of go all in, put our foot on the gas and kind of try to blow this thing up. So we'll see what comes with it. But yeah, we're onboarding a lot. We've had a couple of strategic hires and we're trying to take it to the next level.
Well, I think you guys are doing fantastic. I've been keeping up on LinkedIn and so forth, seeing all the pictures. The office looks amazing. And I saw you post today or yesterday, you guys got a custom vending machine.
Yeah. So man, it's actually, that vending machine's been in my garage for about 6 months. It wouldn't fit in our old office. Got it moved up here today, and it won't fit into our unit up here either. So it's in a hallway. So I think that I'm really hoping, knock on wood, fingers crossed, that the building manager won't make me take it back home.
Right.
But yeah. I'm thinking that they're gonna have to just have a Black Box vending machine in my garage.
I love it, man. That's awesome. Well, we've covered a ton here today, but anything that you can think of that we've missed?
No, man, I feel like we covered some good ground. I've definitely enjoyed the conversation. And again, I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, same here, man. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day. Before we let you go, though, I want to give you time for some shameless plugs. How can people learn more about you, get a hold of you, find out about your podcast, all that jazz?
Shameless plugs. I'm going to steal that. I like that. If you want to find me, the best way is LinkedIn, Will Hopkins, Black Box. Black Box is my company. Get that page followed as well if you want to. And then is Two Dogs, One Pod.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to get that linked below as well. But yeah, dude, thank you again so much for coming on, taking some time out of your day today, and for all that you do for the industry.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
100%. Well, for everyone watching, thank you so much. Make sure you like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Till then, stay safe out there.